Hello, my name is Boris Protorov. I'm the head of the purse service of RosCo Consulting and Audit Company. What's new in the tax system for businesses engaged in international economic activity? What obligations arise when importing goods from EAEU countries? And how should members of international groups of companies, IGCs, correctly calculate the minimum income tax? Keep up to date. Current taxation issues for businesses engaged in foreign economic activity include calculating income tax, forming the zero rate, the excise duty. The tax reform affected international groups of companies, IGCs, and non-resident owners of shares and stakes in companies. By the way, we talked about how personal income tax is levied on foreigners in this video. Follow the link and watch. VAT on imports from the EAEU. Intermediaries of foreign suppliers from EAEU countries pay VAT when selling goods to individuals in Russia as follows. Tax agents if the sale is carried out through online platforms, taxpayers when importing into the Russian Federation in all other cases. The amendments will take effect from 2025. The obligation to pay VAT on imported products under such contracts falls on Russian agents, commission agents, or attorneys who are registered as individual entrepreneurs or companies. The rule applies only to goods accepted for registration by Russian intermediaries starting from 2025. Payment is made no later than the 20th day of each subsequent month. Are you facing tax problems? Errors in declaration and legislative changes are not just numbers. Your business depends on them. RosCo's lawyers will help optimize taxation and avoid trouble. With the promo code VIDEOROSCO, 15% discount. All contacts are in the description. Do not delay. Act right now. Zero VAT rate. A 0% of VAT rate applies if registered businesses entities sell goods to individuals that were previously exported from the territory of Russia under the customs procedure. The law stipulates two conditions. First, the products were previously exported abroad by the same company that sells them. Second, the goods are shipped from a facility in the country to which the export was made, and that country is not a member of EAEU. The rule applies exclusively to goods that were exported and placed under the surveillance regime no earlier than 2025. To justify the zero rate, you must provide an electronic register, an invoice and warehouse lease agreement, and a delivery address in the name of an individual. In order to legally sell goods to individuals abroad, it's not necessary to maintain separate records to input VAT for zero and other financial transactions. Important: to justify the 0% of VAT rate for international shipments, it's sufficient to provide a set of documents identical to those required for importing or exporting goods outside the EAEU and Russia. Features of income tax. Starting in 2025, entrepreneurs, including those making payments to foreign companies, will pay income tax at a rate up to 25%. This change will take effect in 2025. If the legal relationship between the counterparties is not covered by a double taxation avoidance agreement (DTAA), the income of the entities is taxed at the rate of tax code of Russia. For example, non-resident businesses are required to pay tax on their income at the following rates. Dividend income 15% in a general, income from international transportation 10%, licensing agreements it's 25%, gracious payments 25%. From 2025, the 5% tax rate will apply to IT companies for the next 5 years. Prior to this, the rate was zero for several years. Payment of taxes by members of IGC. Since 2026, Article 288.5 of the Tax Code of the Russian Federation has been introduced, establishing the procedure for calculating and paying the minimum income tax, an internal analog of the global Pillar 2 rule, by taxpayers who are members of international group of companies. Key application conditions. The parent company of the IGC is a non-resident of the Russian Federation. The group is a resident of the country whose jurisdiction has implemented Pillar 2 rules. The list is approved by the Russian Ministry of Finance. The IGC's revenue for 2 years exceeds 750 million euro. The gist of the rule. If the notional tax rate of the Russian participant in such an IGC is less than 15%, it's required to pay additional tax to bring it up to that level. Specifics of calculation according to Russian rules. The rate and tax are calculated for each company separately. The calculation is based on tax accounting data, not financial accounting data. Tax distribution: 5% to the federal budget, 10% to the regional budget. Advance payments are taken into account. This approach means that the state has minimized the risk of situations arising in which preferential tax incentives under Russian law could become the basis for additional income tax in other jurisdictions. Personal income tax on the sale of shares and stakes in a business. Russian residents do not pay personal income tax on the sale of company shares held for more than 5 years or bonds held for more than 1 year if the total amount doesn't exceed 50 million rubles. An excise amount is subject to a rate of 13% and 50%. Non-residents, on the other hand, are required to pay the full 30% tax on income received from the sale, redemption of shares, bonds of Russian resident organizations and investment units, regardless on the holding period. The tax-exempt limit doesn't apply to these incomes. The status of the resident or non-resident in the context of tax payment is determined not at the end of the year, but on the date of each specific income payment. Excise tax on imported products. Excise tax is an indirect tax included in the price of excisable goods or services. It's calculated based on the customs value, taking into account customs duties. The taxpayer is the declarant of the goods. The VAT is then calculated on the price of the goods, including excise tax. Payment procedure upon import. From the EAEU countries, excise tax is paid for the month the goods are accepted for accounting by the 20th of the following month at the Federal Tax Service Inspectorate in the place of registration. The marked goods from the EAEU within 5 business days of acceptance for accounting, payment is made at the customs office that released the goods. From other countries, excise tax is paid each time the goods are declared at customs, before the declaration is submitted at customs. The most common type of excise tax in Russia is specific fixed excise tax, which is a fixed amount per unit of goods. At varying rates, a percentage of the product's value are not used in Russia in their pure form. Let's summarize. The new tax regulations for imported goods directly impact domestic businesses and private investors. To prevent violations and problems with tax audits, it's important to promptly adapt to the new requirements. Thank you for watching the video to the very end. I'm Boris Provatorov. Do you have any questions? Don't delay, write them in the comments right now, and our lawyers from RosCo company will answer them for free. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Stay up to date, stay connected with RosCo.